Okay, so for the past couple of prediction videos, I included a map breakdown, or, well, my predictions for what map we'd be playing on and who would ban what map for one of the match in each of the playdays I did this for. But the video ended up being lengthened as a result, so to keep that video length down and then maybe even just to put out an additional video or whatever, because some people probably aren't terribly interested in this, so I'll have this in its own video, as you can see here. So if you can watch this, and then it'll once again keep the length of the other one down, and maybe just segment everything in a way that everyone gets to see only really what they want to see. Okay, so we're looking at SpaceStation versus DarkZero. This is the only super impactful game in that last Playday. So every other game, of course, you want to get points. It can determine your position on the board. It can get you more SI points, more prize money, more points at the end of the year to go to the NL finals or to avoid relegation or whatever. But for the purpose of this stage, this is the only game that really matters. Everyone else is either locked into the major or locked out of the major. So it is simply the winner of this game goes to the major because of the points each team is at and the round differential. There's no tiebreaker that's going to come into effect under any circumstances. So again, it is just whoever wins, even if we go overtime, whatever. Okay. SpaceStation versus DarkZero for the major. So, okay, here is the breakdown. If you didn't see me do any of these previous ones, these are all of the matches that they've played this stage thus far in order. Here are the matches, or just the results, I guess, from the matches, and then I have them lined up so you can compare results versus any given team. These are the number of times they've banned any map, and as you can see, each of the teams has banned every map at least one time. These are my predictions for where we might be going, and then these are just a couple of notes I made, which maybe I'll refer to. Okay, so we'll start over here. At the beginning of the stage, SSG came out of the gates really hot, a win versus XSET and Mirage. They looked like maybe two of the weaker teams at the beginning of the stage. XSET has clearly proven to be very strong, but they just weren't in the first week, taking a 7-3 loss to SpaceStation, also a 7-3 loss, I suppose 3-7, whatever, to TSM. So comparing the trajectories of these two teams, they're pretty similar, actually. So a 7-3 win for both of them in the very first day, and then a win in the second day for both of them, although DarkZero's was very close. In the third day, they both took a loss, fairly close loss. And then in the next day, a win for SpaceStation, but a loss for DarkZero, both of them in overtime, and then a fairly close win in the next day, and then a loss here and a win here for DarkZero, and then sort of swapped on the next day, loss for DarkZero, win for SpaceStation, and then in the very last day, 4-7 loss for SpaceStation, 7-4 win for DarkZero, and this sort of mirrors the result from day number 5 in a way. At the end of all of this, DarkZero comes out with one more point because just because of where their games ended up in regulation or overtime or whatever, but I suppose they're on the same number of wins and losses, right? So they each have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 wins, and they each have, what, I guess 3 losses, whether that be overtime or regulation. And what, SpaceStation has 1 win in overtime, and so does DarkZero, but they have a loss in overtime, and I guess that's where their additional point comes from, right? Okay, so those are all the matches, and the maps are there as well. I'll probably refer back to that later. Looking at the comparisons versus any given team. So they both lost to Astralis, and they both lost by 2 rounds, but DarkZero took them to overtime, so they got the 1 point against them. They both had fairly close matches versus Beast Coast, but DarkZero ended up winning, getting 2 points, and SSG lost, didn't get any points. They both had dominant scorelines versus Mirage. They both had close scorelines versus Oxygen. These are both wins, though. Versus Parabellum, 7-4 win for SpaceStation, 4-7 loss for DarkZero, and then sort of swapped versus the Sonics. A 4-7 loss for SpaceStation, a 7-4 win for DarkZero, and then versus TSM, they both had fairly close games. SSG ended up losing out on a point. They won 8-6, DarkZero won 7-4, and then versus XSET, 7-3 win, good win by SpaceStation, and 5-7 loss for DarkZero. I think SpaceStation, maybe their luck equaled out, so they seem a bit lucky to have played XSET in the first week, because after week 1, they looked incredible, and not so much in week 1. They were close, but not quite there just yet. But then also they had to play Sonics quite late into the stage, and that's where Sonics really were waking up. So again, maybe luck equaled out there, and then it's hard to call against anyone else. Everyone else had like their own mini slumps and whatever, but in terms of like really noticeable trends, I think Sonics and XSETs were on the most clear paths in their own ways. Okay. And then here are once again, the bans versus any given map. It's just the map and the number of times it's been banned. So again, Clubhouse and Bank only banned once by SpaceStation, and that they were both against Sonic. So it seems a little bit weird to just so late in the stage ban each of these. You would think that they would really want to play Club. They haven't had a chance to play Club. It's been banned against them every single time. But Sonics is also quite good on Club. And then Bank, maybe they wanted to hide a little. hide it a little bit, and maybe they were just scared of playing Sonics on it. Sonics, I don't think, have played on it, and SpaceStation has played 3 times on it. The first 2 were solid wins, but the most recent one was a loss, and so there's a lot of VOD on them. The most recent one was a loss. They didn't ban it versus Parabellum, but I think maybe they just are aware that Parabellum doesn't really want to play Bank. That could be the case. And all right, so let's just look at all of the maps I think are going to get banned. So I added a little bit of color coding here. The red maps are the ones I really don't expect to go to, and then I think green are all sort of possibilities. Even the red ones could sort of be possibilities, like maybe they train really hard just for this match on a specific map to really surprise their opponent, but given the trends that we've already seen, I expect those will be the 5 that'll be banned, most certainly. And then for the most part, the higher up ones I think are more likely to be banned, and then it becomes progressively less likely for them to be banned as we go down. Obviously, you can see that based on where the red and the green are located. I think Theme Park is where we'll play. I feel like it's the most evenish map, the most likely result to be left standing after each team bans 4 maps. So let's just go over each of them. SpaceStation on Oregon. So they banned it 6 times. Keep in mind, you could have banned any map up to 8 times. There have been 8 playdays thus far, and they beat TSM on it the one time that they did play it, but it was close. The last time they played TSM, they destroyed them. Of course, Hot and Cold went insane in that game. But right, so sort of a shaky win versus TSM, and now there is VOD on them, 14 rounds of VOD on them, and DarkZero, they played it as well, and they lost it to Astralis. Also a close game, though. You got to keep in mind, Astralis is the #1 team in the league at the moment. And then DarkZero's other game is against Oxygen. They're the #2 team in the league, and they beat them on it, and they just did it. So, 1-0 for SSG, 1-1 for DarkZero, but DarkZero did it against the 2 best teams in the league right now, and it just feels like maybe SpaceStation doesn't want to play against it, especially the fact that they banned it 6 other times. So, they played it once, they banned it every other time, except for one time, I suppose it was banned against them. So it doesn't seem like they'll want to go to Oregon against DarkZero here, mostly off the back of this scoreline against Oxygen. Not only are Oxygen like the 2nd best team, but Oregon might well be their best map. It's not totally clear because it's sort of a new rendition of the team, but in the past it was one of their strongest, if not their strongest maps. Okay, Clubhouse, that's sort of SSG's famous map. They haven't played on it this stage because it's been banned against them every time, except for, again, that one versus the Sonics, and maybe that's the one team you want to ban it against. Oxygen, also a good Clubhouse team, but I think maybe the 2 most renowned in NA at the moment are SpaceStation and Sonics on the map. And so DarkZero probably doesn't want to play them there. Plus, DarkZero took a loss. Their only play on it is a loss versus XSET, which is, I guess, the 3rd place team right now. So there's VOD on them. It's a loss. SpaceStation, good map. It just seems like they're not going to want to play them on it. Going over to Border. So SpaceStation played it. They lost to Astralis. Once again, top team in the league. They almost took him to overtime. Just one round away from doing so. They kind of went down really hard at the beginning. So maybe if they came out of the gate stronger, and then they almost mounted the comeback, but they were just 1 round short of doing so. I think they were down like 6-2 or something, and then they went 6-5, and then 7-5 closed out by Astralis. And we have seen it played by DarkZero against Sonics, and Sonics turned out to be, they turned out to be pretty good on Border. They lost it both times that they played it recently. I guess 7-4 versus DarkZero here, and then a 7-5 versus Oxygen, but 2 of the good teams, and Sonics was sort of just coming out of their slump. So a win for DarkZero on it, and a loss for SpaceStation on it, and coupled with the fact that SpaceStation banned it 5 times, DarkZero has banned it 4 times, but it just points toward maybe it being a little bit better of a map for DarkZero. So I think SpaceStation would ban it out. And then Villa. Okay, so SpaceStation has not played Villa, and DarkZero has played it 2 times. They had a very close game against Beast Coast. They did manage to pull it out, and then they had a loss versus Parabellum. After that, they banned it every single time. So I think they didn't ban it versus Mirage, and then once again 5 bans after they played it twice. So there's VOD on them over the course of a lot of rounds. I guess 26 rounds of VOD on them. No VOD. SpaceStation, there's probably older VOD, but most recent VOD is non-existent. And SpaceStation has shown the relative willingness to play it, banning it 3 times. 5 times it was banned against them, and again, DarkZero 5 bans in the last 5 playdays. Just doesn't seem like they're going to want to go back there. They, I guess, appeared to be comfortable on it at the beginning, but maybe it was shown that they weren't quite as good on it as they were originally. It also is, I feel like if anything, these teams are going to want to go to a map that's like fairly comfortable for both of them, rather than maybe the alternative is a map that's uncomfortable for both of them. And I guess let me mention Sky while I'm talking about this. So they've each banned it a lot. DZ has banned it every time except for 1. Oxygen, for some reason, first banned it against them. It seemed like probably DarkZero would have banned it anyways, but they decided they didn't want to play him on it for whatever reason. It's not like Oxygen had perma-banned it. There were, I think, several playdays where Oxygen did not ban Skyscraper. Their opponents did, so this seemed a little bit weird. It's basically DarkZero's perma-ban. Maybe they saved it for this time. I mean, this is when you'd want to pull it out, I guess. I mean, really, ideally, you'd save it for the major if you were saving it at all. But this is for the major, so if you do not win this, then you're not going to get a chance to pull it out at the major anyways. SpaceStation also has banned it a ton. They haven't played it, so it's just been banned twice against them. So this sort of indicates, I think, that both teams are really uncomfortable on it. Probably this is the map that they scrim the least, or maybe one of these teams indeed will want to pull it out against the other. Maybe they have some sort of intel, some sort of reconnaissance on the other team in regards to this map. But I do think that even if one of them thinks they're more comfortable on it than the other one, I feel like they're still going to be uncomfortable. They haven't played a T1 match on it. And again, I do think that if anything, these two teams are going to want to go on something that is comfortable for them, even if it is comfortable for their opponent, rather than something that is uncomfortable for them and their opponent. You just don't want to go into this last game of the stage, this really important game that determines if you go to the major, just feeling uncomfortable, even if maybe you can do it to your opponent. I don't think it's worth the risk. And then there's also the risk if you go to something that you're not necessarily good on, maybe your opponent ends up being really good on it. If you're at least up to a certain standard, that means your opponent, there's much less room for your opponent to be worse on it than better than you are on it. Okay, so for this reason, I don't think Skyscraper. I think this is sort of a volatile one where there is that slight potential of each team pulling it out as a surprise, but maybe this even belongs higher up. But I had it a little bit lower here just because there might be a little bit of a cold war in terms of who's going to ban it, since they both banned it so often. And then, okay, at this point, we get into the maps I do think are possible to be selected. So Chalet, Bank, Cafe, Theme Park, and once again, I thought Theme Park. Chalet and Bank, maybe you can switch these two. Maybe Bank's less likely than Chalet. I don't know. Okay, let's talk about them though. Chalet, SpaceStation just played it on the most recent day against Sonics. I guess I haven't had a chance to discuss this in the recap just yet, or at least the recap hasn't come out just yet. Sonics were really good on this map in the past, and if I remember right, this might have, before this stage, I think they're like, what, 0-1 in the stage before this point. I think it was their statistically best map that's still in the pool, so they were quite good on Coastline and Consulate. Maybe they weren't their best map statistically, but they went to them a lot. Those aren't in the pool anymore. They're also good on Clubhouse, Oregon, but right, they were really good on Chalet. I don't even think they lost it in NAL last year, despite playing it several times. So I thought this was a mistake. I don't know if this was some sort of saving maps by SpaceStation, or they really thought they could beat them because Parabellum beat them on the map. I don't know what it was. As soon as I saw this map, I was really not confident in SpaceStation when I had predicted them. And then, yeah, honestly, I think I would have predicted Sonics if I predicted after I saw the map. But I mean, SpaceStation, they were good on this map as well. It just seems strange for them to go here, especially when they banned Club and Bank against them. That it was strange. I don't know what was up with it, and it did end up costing them the game. And well, if they lose to DarkZero, I guess maybe it will end up costing them the major. Maybe it won't. I don't know. Okay, whatever. We'll move past that point. These guys haven't played on it, DarkZero that is, but they've only banned it 4 times. So 4 out of 8, you know, they've banned it 4 times. It's been banned against them 4 times. But they've seen SpaceStation play on it. They've seen them lose on it. And maybe this is incorrect. Maybe I should even have DarkZero banning it. It's still probably a good map for SpaceStation. It's just a really good map for DarkZero. I just think SpaceStation might be a little bit shook on it, having just lost to Sonics and the very recent VOD. It is, maybe it's, in some circumstances, I think probably it's better for the map, for you to have played the map very recently. That means there's less time for your opponents to VOD review it. But because there was only 1 game in the last week as opposed to 2 in the other weeks, DarkZero will be focused only on this. So they don't have to worry about 2 opponents. They can just worry about the 1. So they can really VOD review Chalet, get it ready if they think that might be where we end up playing. And I do think it's entirely possible. Maybe either one of these teams could end up playing it. I think DarkZero was kind of shaky on Chalet in the past, but I feel like the current rendition of the team, the state they're currently in, it seems like they would be fairly well suited to Chalet. But because of their, if I'm remembering right, hopefully I'm not misremembering this, I think DarkZero was kind of shaky in the past, so maybe they still don't like it that much. It's a little bit hard to glean based on the 4-4 thing kind of here. So maybe Chalet. Okay, Bank. SpaceStation has played this more than any other map. It's generally a quite good map for them coming into the stage, and they have a win versus Exit. They have a win versus Mirage. That's good. You know, you want to be beating Mirage, especially by a dominant scoreline. They're probably the worst team in the league. I don't think they're like super bad, but they're just like noticeably the worst, I think, at the moment, even though they took that nice upset against Beast Coast. And then Xset, again, maybe fortunate to play him in the first week. They lost to Beast Coast here, and this is kind of a bad loss. It is a 7-5, so it's quite close, almost went to overtime. And probably they wouldn't have lost if Sweater didn't absolutely pop off on them, but a loss nonetheless. And also they've been seen playing on it 3 times, so that's quite a lot of VOD to have on, for your opponents to have on you so recently. DarkZero played it. This was at the beginning of the stage against Mirage. Good scoreline, so they've shown the willingness to play it. They've only banned it out 2 times, so it's been banned against them 5 times. So because of all of this, even though it is, I think, generally a good SpaceStation map, I think all of these factors come together to make it more likely that SpaceStation will ban it, but I do have it at the bottom here for a reason. I think this could be the map where we end up going. And then, okay, Cafe. SpaceStation played it twice, and they won it twice. So, again, decent amount of VOD, but it's also 2 wins. Not the most dominant wins ever, 7-4 and 7-5. One's against Parabellum, who were, you know, they've been shaky. They've had some bad play days, some good play days. Oxygen were absolute killers for the longest time. SpaceStation, the first one to take them down. This match maybe could have gone to Oxygen, but I guess just enough things went SpaceStation's way that SpaceStation ended up taking it. But it does show that they're confident enough to play it. They are confident enough to win it. And DarkZero has not played it, although they have only banned it 3 times. So maybe DarkZero will want to pull it out. These do seem like 2 of the teams that really will enjoy the fact that their opponents have played it 1 or more times, especially 2 or more times, and they haven't played it to get a lot of counter stratting going. It's just hard to say how much counter stratting do you really do on Cafe. You usually do similar kind of things. Maybe you can defend the basement a little differently, a heavy roam, just an extension on the bottom floor. But generally, you just go in and you roam clear, and then you like assault site. It's not that crazy of a map. So maybe we'll go to Cafe. I do think it's fairly likely, but Theme Park seems like maybe where we'll go. Each of these teams seem to like it by way of not having banned it that much. They've only banned it twice each. Of course, that means it's been played by one of them, right? It was played by DarkZero, and then that means it was banned against them 5 times, banned against SpaceStation 6 times. And it just strikes me as the sort of map that these two would want to play each other on, that they feel they're fairly confident on, and fairly confident that they can defeat their opponents on. It was sort of a defender-favored Bastion in the past, but now with the attacker repick, it's just much more dynamic of a map, I suppose. So maybe SpaceStation is slightly advantaged on it. We've seen DarkZero play, so you know, once again, I just keep saying it, but it is important, I think. The fact that DarkZero has been seen playing on it. They beat TSM, but I mean, at this point, who hasn't beat TSM on Theme Park? So I think it's fairly likely. Again, neither of them banning it that much. Only the one play by DarkZero, so not that much VOD, and they did win it. So just a lot of factors. It was kind of in the middle of the stage, so maybe they've developed their strats, but it's not like it was at the beginning of the stage, so they've had some amount of time, but not the most time to develop their strats. So there's just a lot to consider there, and I'm just feeling a Theme Park on this one, and I feel like it would be a good battleground. Maybe I don't know, Chalet and Bank, I guess, are also fairly interesting maps. Both of them being like newer-ish, I guess. Chalet and even Bank is getting a little bit tenured in the current map pool, but okay. So that's what I'm going with. This video ended up being so long, but I mean, I'm sure some people will enjoy it, and especially I will enjoy it if I'm correct. I got the previous one completely right. I had exactly the map that they play on, exactly who would ban what map, and I guess not necessarily in the right order, but still, I mean, you know, props to me. Very cool. Okay, so, I mean, if you enjoyed this specific type of video, give it a like, drop me a sub, maybe a comment saying, you know, that you specifically enjoy this sort of map breakdown, and maybe if you're watching this video after the game already went down and this isn't correct at all, you know, I guess maybe you can flame me or whatever you got to do. But, all right, so this is sort of a companion to the predictions video. I'll probably do the prediction video, and then, or maybe I'll upload on the same day, whatever, but I'll upload that one first, and then I'll reference this one via that one. And maybe vice versa. Obviously, I've mentioned the other one. Okay, so I think that's going to do it for this video. If you have any comments, questions, concerns, especially relating to the things that I just mentioned before, do let me know. And again, you know, like and subscription is very much appreciated. With all of that being said, I will catch you guys in the next video.